Welcome back, listeners, to the Biz Blend podcast, the space where bold business moves meet personal truth. I'm your host, Sana, and today we are going to strip away the polished surface and dig into what reinvention really looks like. Listeners, my guest is someone who had it all figured out on paper, a rising star in international diplomacy, working on post war missions, shaping policy. But then everything cracked. What followed was a spiritual collapse, a return to her roots in Italy, and a reinvention that didn't come with a manual, just courage. She didn't just leave her career, listeners, she left behind logic, certainty, and a life without belief. And through motherhood, failure, and rebuilding, she found something unexpected: faith. And today she leads Big Business Academy, teaching solopreneurs how to thrive with both strategic skill and soul centered wisdom. So, listeners, this is not a typical success story. This is about what happens when the life you built no longer fits, and how you find your way forward, one raw, honest step at a time. So, let's quickly dive in and, listeners, meet my guest, Annalisa Corti. So, Annalisa, welcome to the show, and I'm really, really honored and excited to have you here with us.
Thank you, Sana. Me too. I am super excited and grateful that I'm here with you talking about these amazing things.
Beautiful, beautiful. So Analisa, you walked away from a diplomatic career, which is a field many dream of. What did the unraveling feel like for you, and at what point did you actually know you weren't going back? You had to take this risk, and you weren't going back. There were no second chances.
Well, I think that people crave things sometimes. I was very young when I got into this path. I
Mhm.
was living in Geneva, Switzerland. I was surrounded by international organizations that did amazing work around the world. And so I was an enthusiast about this type of contributing to the world and contributing to helping people that needed help. I also was a daughter raised by someone who believed in the safe job, get the contract job, get the long term job, get the safe job. And so in my old mind, in my old self, this made perfect sense. And so I did the whole thing. I did the master's at Duke University. I worked in Geneva. I worked in New York. And then, if I wanted to launch my diplomatic career, I had to go to the field. And so I ended up in post war Africa. Please note, Sana, that I had never been camping and I was not a big fan of camping. Today, I am still not a big fan of camping. So for me, it was really like jumping into the unknown, but the dream was very real and motivated by that. I just went. I went and I went to live under a tent. Um, and as I was there, the months that I was there, 24 hours a day, we were surrounded by international diplomatic people as well as local people that we collaborated with. And I just didn't feel it, Sana. I mean, I was surrounded by all these colleagues that were so enamored. They were so enthusiastic. They were so alive doing what they were doing. And I wasn't coming alive. And,
Mhm.
and, and so here I was, at the beginning of my presumed stellar, what was going to launch me into a greater career because Geneva and New York were headquarters offices. And so they were very prestigious offices, but really the career you make in the field. And so here I was at the beginning of it all, and I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't there. My body was there, but I wasn't there. And it was really a tough time, Sana, because I was surrounded by people who were. And so I thought for the longest time that there was something wrong with me. I mean, it gave me great pleasure to help and to contribute, but it wasn't giving me the thrills, if you allow me the word. It wasn't giving me the thrills that it was giving everybody else, and I thought there was something wrong with me. And eventually, I couldn't ignore this anymore. Eventually, things got really bad. I even started drinking, I have to say, because I couldn't explain it. I mean, I didn't have all the tools that I have today, but this was 20 years ago, and I didn't have the awareness. I didn't have the understanding that I have today. So I was there, the odd one out that wasn't really getting this. And the easy way out was, drinking because we didn't have a lot to do back then. And then finally, the two conversations switched on something else, like a deeper intelligence. One was with my good friend, we're still friends today, who said to me, "I don't think it's normal that you start drinking at lunch. I think there's a problem here that you are not willing to see, and I suggest you start looking for it." And that
Mhm.
for me, I love this girl so much. That for me was really a cold shower. And from that day on, I started asking myself some serious questions. But remember, it's 20 years ago. I'm completely unaware. I'm
Mhm.
I don't have any of the um cognitive exploration tools that I have now. So I'm still kind of going by chance, I'm just kind of trying to figure it out. And then the second conversation, which then prompted me to pack up and leave, was with my mom. I called my mom. I'm very lucky. I have a really great parent, my mom. And I called her from inside my tent. I borrowed a set phone from a colleague and I called my mom and I said, "Mom, this is happening. This was supposed to be the highlight of my career, and it was going to be the beginning of all sorts of new highlights of my career, but I'm not feeling it. This and this is happening, and I feel weird. And why is everybody enjoying it, and I'm not enjoying it? I wanted this, and now I'm here, and I don't want it anymore." And she said something to me that was really powerful. She said, "Well, look, you need to figure out what you want, and
Mhm.
if you want it, then suck it up and stay the course. But
Wow.
if this is in your life, pack your stuff and come home and we'll figure it out." And that was it, you know? I think this kind of moment of truth with her was really what set the clarity. And then I left. Shortly after, about a month later, I left. I resigned, I left, and I started from zero. I came back home to Italy where my entire family was, and no job, no contacts, no nothing. And I started from zero again at the age of 30. So now you can do the math and you can figure out how old I am.
Oh my goodness. I must, say that, um, and at that age, when we are young, we are trying to figure out what to do with our lives. Um, I think the most difficult part of taking a huge risk and sharing the deepest thoughts and feelings is sharing them with our family, parents, and maybe having friends who can actually understand us. Because someone who understands us, they would only come to us and say, "This is something you are doing, it's not usual, this is not you." So there's something that you are maybe hiding or suppressing. So that's really, really, I think it's a gift. And of course, the biggest gift is having a parent who can actually understand us and give us that nudge to have the clarity in there. because I think, when you mentioned that once your mom said that, if you figure it out and you decide something, then suck it up and, stay on the course. That is such an empowering uh, advice, a statement, because I'm so happy to know that you have, such a supportive parent, um, who is constructively criticizing and also understanding you as well. Because most of the times, everybody around us, they will assume that, okay, you have grown up, you have this, template, you graduate, you get out of the college, you are set on a course, you have a stable job, such a respectable job, you need to figure out it. I mean, we don't care. You just need to figure it out. And then that kind of, really sometimes gets us going into a rabbit hole. So thank you for sharing that, Annalisa. And now moving on, as you mentioned that you came back to Italy, you started from scratch. Um, you became a project manager.
I
Then
had to find a job. Remember, my dad had installed this software inside my head.
okay.
I had to get the safe job, and I had to, be working and earning money and having a good contract. So what
Mhm.
happened when I came back, I had a bit of an identity crisis.
Mm.
And I returned home after living on my own for 9 years. I had been living alone since I was 20, so 10. I had been living alone since I was 20, came back home at 30, and I couldn't stay in the house. I was going mad. I mean, I
Yes.
had just left my career. I didn't know
Mhm.
what I wanted to do next. So having my brother, my sister, the dog, the TV, the radio, I mean, I was going mad. So I ran up to a monastery on top of a mountain. Literally on top of a mountain is where Saint Francis lived. And I didn't know. I mean, I didn't know, but it was the only monastery that actually replied when I called, you know? So I said, well, I'll take it as a sign. I'll just go here. It's the only one that answers the phone. And so I reserved 3 nights. I reserved a 3 night stay, and I ended up staying for 30 nights. I didn't want to leave. And that for me was I that was that for me was the first rebirth. I've had many since, but the first real rebirth was in that monastery.
Mm.
I lived like, um I respected their times and schedules, so I even though I didn't really believe in anything, and even though I was a bit of an atheist, really, uh mistrusting towards anything that's not tangible and concrete. But, I was very respectful. This was their home. So I dove into the silence. I dove into the prayer, even the one I didn't understand. I dove into the meditative prayers and silences that we would do together with the nuns and the monks.
Okay.
And something happened. It was like, I guess, like a mystical experience. I was sitting on the floor in church because
Mm.
the actual bench was too hard on my bottom, and so I didn't want to sit on it anymore. So I sat on the floor, and we were in contemplation. So the church was completely silent, and we were sitting, and everybody was praying silently, and all of a sudden I saw this light come over me.
Mhm.
And he was such, I don't know, still today, 20 years, 30 years later, 20 years later, I'm not able to articulate it because there are no words. It was
Mhm.
like, a light, a mother's embrace, a warm blanket. Something just kind of took me, wrapped around me, and completely um, washed everything away.
Wow. I mean, and did you believe in like faith or
At the
God?
time,
Yeah, before this, before you had that experience.
no. At the time, I I thought it was all woo-woo stuff, like
Mm,
um all weird stuff. I had never experienced something so magical. I mean, magical is not even the right word, but it escapes me. The words even today still escape me. But what happened was this entire sense of all over my body that everything was going to be fine and that I was completely safe and I was completely loved and any all the mistakes and failures up until that moment were set clean. It was like a reset button.
yep.
And and that gave me the strength to start, thinking, okay, about what I want to do and who I want to be. Questions that I had never really asked myself because that was not the software that was in my brain. You go for the safe job and you go for this and you go for that. You don't ask yourself what you want. So I started asking myself these questions and I realized that I wanted to help people. I didn't know how. I mean, I was very far from where I am now in terms of clarity, but I realized that I wanted to be in a faith-based life helping people. I knew that.
Mm,
And then it took me another another what? Wait, another 15 years, another 10 years to get there, but, yes, eventually I did. Another 10 years to get there. I got there in 2016, so this was 2006. In 2016, I actually got to what that moment up in that monastery showed me, but only because I was afraid to leap and I was afraid to trust.
and uh, how did this belief begin to shape your business decisions, Analisa? Because faith and business somehow they are different worlds, but sometimes there's a lot of skeptics that would think like they don't intersect. There is no place of faith in business. It's a practical world, and there's no place of for faith or intuition or something like that.
Uh, I agree. I think that after COVID, a lot of this old school paradigm is a little bit shifting
Mm,
because people saw so many of their truths crumble to the ground that they
mm,
had to go deep and find new ones. But I think that faith for me, God for me, faith for me is inside us. I don't have a very um, religious denomination of faith. I have more of a spiritual denomination of faith. So I believe that a part of Christ consciousness, a part of God consciousness, a part of divinity is inside us. But we only access it if we are in the present. So
mm,
we don't worry about tomorrow and we don't think about yesterday, but I am right here with you, Sana, right now. And this is the entire universe is in this conversation that we are having. And in this present, we connect to something deeper, like a deeper intuition, a deeper sensibility, a deeper knowing that, and I attribute that to not Annalisa, not my ego identity, but something bigger. Call it God, call it source, call it Buddha, call it consciousness, call it, everybody has their word for it. And for me, business is a reflection of this. My own business school, Big Business Academy, that I launched in the middle of COVID to help solopreneurs and freelancers in Italy that were struggling because of the pandemic and they didn't have any business coaching skills. So they weren't ready for the pandemic and they weren't ready financially, they weren't ready in terms of mm, flexibility, sales flexibility. They weren't digitally ready. I mean, they weren't just weren't ready. So the vision to create Big Business Academy came to me in a meditation, and it wasn't mine. It was downloaded, It was a download, a divine download, I call it. It just came. And like many things that I do, many things that entrepreneurs do, I think, come from these divine downloads.
Mm.
They might just not be aware of it, but I,
Yeah.
I do think that they are divine downloads. They're bigger than just us, than just my egoic identity.
Yeah. That really makes sense, Analysis, and I agree with you because um not from the business perspective, but more from the personal perspective. Solopreneurship or entrepreneurship, we are trying to we have identified that there is a gap or there's a problem, and we are trying to seek solutions to those problems, and in a way, we are kind of surrendering ourselves to seeking answers or solutions to those problems. And also, we are um, responsible for the people who are working with us. They are looking to us, up to us. They are seeking inspiration from us. So in a way, leadership definitely, there is a divinity in that. There is a spiritual aspect in that.
I agree. And everybody finds it in their own time and in their own way. Some don't find it at all. Um, I think it's a very personal journey. For me, uh, God is everywhere, is in when I see the sunrise or where I see my kids play together or when I see an old man reach out his hand and grab his wife's hand while they're walking together. It's in a
Mhm.
client's having a breakthrough. I mean, for me, it's just everywhere. And I think and that's okay. I believe that everybody has their own time and everybody is on their own journey. And not everybody needs to awaken spiritually to be spiritual. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
No, it does. It does. It does. I mean, there is no kind of obligation or forced upon thing that you have to be spiritually awakened or enlightened, um, to understand faith, because it can be in the way of living, it can be in the way of thinking, or leading our daily lives, and the people around us, um, in our values, in our thought process. So yes, yes, I completely agree with you. Um,
N-
and yeah, yeah, you were saying something in Alison.
No, no, go ahead, Sana.
And you this is also something, one of my favorite aspects of talking, because uh, you talk about the integration of masculine and feminine in business, and for the fact that I have also learned, and credit to all the conversations that I get to have with incredible guests, that we all have this masculine and feminine energy within us, and now you also integrate that into your business, which I would love to know, because um I would love to know, how does it look like in a launch, or let's say a negotiation, or a leadership moment?
Okay. Well, you said something very true. That we
Mhm.
hold all energies inside us.
Mhm.
So we are both feminine and masculine. We are both female and male. In essence, we have both divine essences. What happens usually is that we have a predisposition towards
Mhm.
one or another energy. We also have an imposition by our parents and the society that brought us up that
Mhm.
shaped, whether it's more masculine or more feminine. So when we get to be leaders or solopreneurs, or we have leaders of companies or leaders of teams or leaders of our own life, we will dip deep no sorry we will dip into the energy that's most familiar to us, not necessarily a synergy of the two.
Mm,
I have my I've done all sorts of not just behavioral mapping, but I've done all sorts of different mapping tools, human design, birth charts, astral charts, all sorts of charts. And all of them say the same thing, that I when I chose to come to Earth, I came to Earth with a very masculine pact archetypes. My female archetypes are, I came to Earth with very weak female archetypes. What does this mean, and what did this translate into? It translated into me being a go getter, a doer, a hustler, someone that thrives in under pressure, thrives in competition, someone that pushes and pulls, okay, until I burnt out. Because that was what was familiar to me. And I was raised in an environment where you had to fight to get it. So
mm,
already I was predisposed with high masculine energy, plus my environment kind of hyped me up with you gotta go fight and get it. So
mm,
here I was, running and running and pushing and hustling and making things happen with such force that eventually I just burned out because
mm,
I nobody taught me the feminine way.
mm.
And of course, this is not a relationship podcast, but you can just imagine how devastating this was for my relationships.
Yeah.
Um, because in a relationship, you need to have I'm heterosexual, so there's a man and a woman. And if I was the man, if I was the man in the relationship, I didn't leave a lot of room for the man to show up, you know? So that was a very difficult time for me. But now, after years of work, what I have discovered, I have women today, a lot, too many women today are overly using masculine energy because they got to fight to get it.
Mm,
And this prompts us to not look at, neglect, ignore, postpone our feminine sides. That kind of energy, that's a different type of energy. It's the energy that kind of gently waits, prompts, welcomes, listens, uh, has intuitions, has divine downloads. Okay. Not to say that men don't have divine downloads. Obviously, yes. But there's things happen in feminine energy without doing. Whereas in masculine energy, things happen through doing. And both are needed inside us, because a leader needs to recognize when it's time to act, when it's time to wait and ponder and allow things to flow and come in. So you need really both, like in a relationship. A good relationship is when the man carries synergy between his male energy and his feminine energy, so that he doesn't dump it all on the woman, or the woman carries her own strength so that she doesn't lean on the man stifling him.
mm.
But we need to kind of come home to ourselves and make ourselves whole, so that we can keep having these divine downloads and stay connected to our higher, most intelligent part of ourselves.
Wow, that is so beautifully put up, Annalisa. So beautifully put up, because in my journey also, somewhere down the line, I also have kind of realized that sometimes I'm really having that absolute, um, practical, aggressive, hard hitting stance on something. Sometimes I have that protective energy, especially when it comes to my loved ones. That okay, you don't need to worry. I'll take care of this, and I don't invite any kind of discussion on that. But then at the same time, I'm into sometimes into more of a nurturing, fulfilling, and a bit of that divine mode when I am trying to listen, trying to understand, be more empathetic. So
Mhm.
it's of a balance between masculine and the feminine energy, and this is within all of us.
It is. And to go back to your question, a leader today
Mhm.
is whole if they are able to do this work within themselves, because you can't really fake empathy, and you can't really fake lucid waiting, because it's not a waiting, oh, I don't feel like doing it. Let me just wait it out. No, it's not that, it's I choose not to act, and I choose to stay still and wait. So waiting is a conscious choice because it allows things to unfold and to present themselves instead of going to push them or force them or get it out or get it done or hustle, hustle, hustle. So a leader today, I think, um, is prompted by society's evolution and where the world is going to bring both energies to themselves and to their team. And this requires a bit of work, a bit of self work.
True, true. So before we wrap up, Annalisa, if our listeners, if they would like to take the first step towards embarking on this journey of understanding their own energy, their values, what would be the first step that you would recommend or advise?
The first step for me in a self discovery journey is always to learn to self observe, is always your actions. Because you can think things, you can plan things, you can know things, but then you do other things. And it's
Mm.
what you do that creates the results. It's your habits, it's your actions. So you might think, oh, tonight I'm not going to argue with my husband and I'm not going to argue with my wife. We're just going to have a nice dinner together. And then they come home and they're in a foul mood and they trigger you. The next thing you know, you are triggered and you react and you're fighting.
Yeah.
So the first step, and I used a home example, but it could be a colleague example, it could be a client example. The first step is always to engage in deep self observation. This is why my core work is behavior mapping. You need to know what your behaviors are. You need to know how you show up when you are stressed. You need to know how quick you are in making choices and decisions and the consequences that you create. You need to know how you show up in front of discipline and time management and sales conversations. Like, you need to know what actions you take to show up in life. And from these actions, you can then monitor them, track them, change them, improve them, and align them to your vision or your business project or whatever you're trying to achieve in your life. So for me, the first step is self observation, profound, non judgmental self observations.
Mhm. Lovely, lovely. And if they would like to connect with you as well, Analysis, and explore more about Big Business Academy, what would be the best way?
I think the best way would probably be to either find me on LinkedIn and drop me a message, or visit the website, which is www.annalisacorti.com, and they can, take a look around and send me a message through the website. Also look at what behavior mapping is and if that resonates with them. I think that would be the best way.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes for our listeners. And Alisa, first of all, thank you so much for being candid with us, sharing your events and moments which have shaped your life, and for reminding us that breakdowns, they don't end us, they really unmask us. So thank you so much. This was gold.
Thank you, Sana. It was such a pleasure to be here with you and to have this conversation together. Thank you so much for creating this space.
Well, thank you for your kind words, and understand to all the listeners. Um, I although it's the it's a wrap for today's episode, but I have a feeling that this conversation will stay with many of us, especially with me, for a long time, because we heard a story of complete reinvention, not just from a career perspective but a soul perspective, from policy rooms to project deadlines, from disbelief to deep faith. So if this resonated with you, please share it with someone standing at their own crossroads. And if you are a solopreneur feeling the weight of doing it all, maybe you don't have to. Maybe the next version of you is already waiting. Until next time, keep blending strategy with soul, and remember that your business is only as bold as your truth. Thank you.